Hello and welcome to your Intro to Logic class with Pyramind Online. I'm David Earl and I'll be your host. Some people also know me as SF Logic Ninja. You can address me however you like. So this is a really exciting class. October, November, December is going to be the first time that we've introduced all of the new Logic 10 content. So the first two sections are up right now. The next sections will be going up shortly. There'll also be homework and assessments and things like that, so that I know that you're taking in all the information, and there's a lot of it as we go along. So I just want to give you a personal hello and let you know that I'm here for you. If you want to send me a message, please feel free. Any questions that you have or any topics that you want to put in the forums, I'll be perusing them every day and checking them out. And I really hope that you take advantage of this, because I'm here for you, and that's why we're all here. So I'm really excited about this class, and we're going to be going from beginning to end in Logic, showing you how to start a project and all the inspiration that goes into the beginning, and take you through to the point where you can bounce this song out and have something to share with the world. So that's it. Just wanted to say hello, a little personal greeting, and I will see you online. Take good care, and ciao. Bye.
Hey there, welcome to Logic 101 with me, Dave Earl. And in our first section here, we're going to talk about finding where Logic lives on your drive, finding where Logic's assets are all located on your drive, and then we're going to build a song from beginning to end. So the first things first, let's open up our drive and go to Applications. Under Applications, you'll find Logic 10 right smack dab in the middle of that window. Now, this is not the only file related to Logic Pro. If we go to the user folder, we don't see a folder that's called library right now, but if you go to the Go menu, hold Option, you'll see a library there. Library won't exist if you don't hold Option down. And in that library, we have application support, and there is a Logic folder. Now, this folder is where all your own personal custom settings live. If we want to look at the settings that are going to be shared amongst all the users of the computer, we need to go back to the main drive. And in its library, there's also an application support folder. There it is right there. So these are all the assets that are going to be shared amongst all the users who use the computer. Okay, so we have the application, then we have library, application support, Logic in both the user folder and the system library. Let's pull that out so you can see the whole tree. Now there is also another file set that you might want to be familiar with, and that's also in the user library. So if I go to the user library, hold Option, go to library, there's a preferences folder, and in that folder you can find a file called com.apple.logic.com. Now I pulled them out so that I can start off from scratch with everybody. So if I open up this folder, logicpro.cs, these are for Logic 9. So these preferences files are old. I'm going to get rid of them. Now we have Logic 10 shared, Logic 10 preference list. These are the preferences that I was using because I use this computer every day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save these files, so after we're done with this course, I can go back to my settings and everything will be cool again. Now, this is going to keep in mind things like what kind of audio interface you're using. It's going to keep certain preferences about the way your screen looks when it first comes up. Your editing tools, there's a lot of general preferences here. Now, things like key commands, that's actually going to be located in those other folders that I was talking to you about. So you don't have to worry about your key commands getting jacked up. Now, when you install Logic from the store, the App Store, that's the only place you can get it. It's going to automatically install these files. So I just want you to know where they all live so that we can all start from scratch. Okay. Now I'm going to open Logic for the first time, right? It doesn't have any preferences, so it's opening as though it was the first time. I like to keep Logic in the dock, and I keep it at the top, of course, but I very rarely open it, actually. You can click on that, and it'll open up Logic just fine. But honestly, and this is kind of a pro tip, I like to hit Command Spacebar and just type LOG, and it comes right up. Okay, so when I first have Logic open, I see this window, and it's basically asking us which template do we want to start from when we're making our new song. There's a couple of templates they've made for us, hip-hop, electronic, songwriter, multi-track, and that's pretty cool. I highly recommend exploring those because they have a lot of really neat instruments and functions in them. But we're going to start with an empty project. So when you open an empty project, there's actually a bunch of details that you can sort out at the bottom, such as what's your audio input and what's your audio output. In this case, my audio input is going to be set to built-in input because I'm using the duet to do, well, this lesson. So we have sample rate, and sample rate is going to be your audio sample rate. So that's how fast Logic's going to be taking pictures of audio. 44.1 seems fine. I could also pick 48, 88.2, 96. And these are all sample rates for different purposes. If we went to 48, that would probably be something like film. 88.2 would be for a music recording at high fidelity. And then 96K is for film as well. And I'm not going to get into the whole issue of sample rate and which is better. I'm going to stick with 44.1 for now. And we can have a discussion about sample rate when we talk about audio recording. Now, frame rate. The most popular frame rate that we have nowadays is 23.976. That's for HD video captured with most video recorders, digital video recorders. Surround format, 5.1. Well, that's fine. We'd be really lucky if we get to do a surround mix anytime soon. Now let's hit choose. So here we are. The first thing that greets me is this window asking us, what do we want for our first track? Do we want an instrument or a audio track for recording a microphone or something? Or maybe we want to record a guitar or a drum kit? And okay, well, I'll do a software instrument. That's cool. I'll hit create. Now, the whole deal with this is that you have to have an instrument on the first track. The reason that they come up with that dialogue first is that your song must have at least one track in it. You can never have the track list completely blank. There's another issue that's going on here that for Logic users, it's probably making them cringe and crawl in their own skin. And that's that I see wood panels on the side of this window. Now, why is that so offensive? Well, it looks a lot like GarageBand. And honestly, in this mode, Logic really operates like GarageBand. So what we need to do now is enable all of the Pro features of Logic. And to do that, we need to go up to Logic Pro X, Preferences, Advanced Tools. So right now, it's not even showing us the advanced tools. I have to enable this little checkbox in order to even see that there are advanced tools. We're going to enable all of them because this is a Logic Pro 10 course, not a Logic Basic course. But the beautiful thing about Logic is that what they're trying to do is make it easy for people who come from GarageBand to step into Logic and not feel completely lost. Even though it's got a lot more functionality and a lot of bells and whistles built into it, people who are coming from GarageBand might actually get really intimidated by all of the extra stuff that's built into Logic. So they created a mode that'll make people who are coming from GarageBand feel much more comfortable. Now, some people might say, like, GarageBand, oh, those are all amateurs. But actually, there's been a lot of professional productions done in GarageBand. I hate to say it, but it's true. Actually, I don't really hate to say it. I think GarageBand's pretty awesome in terms of a tool that is sort of letting the masses get their hands on really cool audio gear. But I digress. So we're going to select all of this because we're pros, or we're going to be shortly. All right, so there we go. All of our advanced tools are turned on, and now we're ready to rock. So let's talk about this window that we have in front of us here, we have the tracks area on the right-hand side, which incorporates our workspace and then the track list. On the left-hand side, we would have an inspector normally, but right now we see a library. To open up the inspector, which I would like to take a look at, we're going to click on this button right here. So upper left-hand side, we get the inspector. So these three buttons are going to open up your library, your inspector, and then your tools. So let's talk a little bit about the library. The library is going to be a context-sensitive library where anything that you have selected in your channel strip here, it will show all the presets for. So this is a channel strip setting, which would reset all of the plugins and things that we can have put on this track. If we select here, these are just the presets for this instrument that I happen to have selected right now. This channel strip right here relates to this track. So I have classic electric piano as my first track, and this channel strip reflects the electric piano that we have on this track and shows us where our effect sends are going. So if I click here, we see that it's going to this reverb over here. And if I click on this bus, we're sending some of this sound to another reverb. If I click on the output, it shows me the overall output for the entire song. So it's very important when you're looking in the inspector to see the context-oriented stuff. This little blue arrow is always going to relate to the library. If I double-click on it, the library disappears, and our channel strip shifts over to the left. If I click here again, it opens up the library. So if you see your track shifting left and right, it may be because you're opening and closing your library. I'm going to close the library right now so I have a little bit more real estate. Okay, so this is the inspector. The inspector is looking at this track, but it's also looking at a couple of other things. We have a quick help menu that you see is changing like crazy when I float over things. When I float over this balance knob, it's showing me the pan balance knob in the quick help. If I go to this volume knob, it says, hey, this fader is for setting tracks playback volume, etc., etc. This is pretty cool because this is quick help, and basically anything that you float over in Logic, it's going to give you a description of what you're doing. That's tremendously helpful for people who are kind of lost in Logic or feeling a little like, what does this button do? Or when I'm over here, what is this area? It's all contextual. And what's even cooler is if you have the Logic Remote app, which is free in the App Store for your iPad, the iPad will automatically update to the page of the manual that corresponds to the thing that you're floating over, which is pretty amazing. So I'm going to turn off the contextual help menu. And I'm going to open up this little disclosure triangle next to this region MIDI through. So what's this about? Well, this is your region information. This entire strip on the left-hand side is your inspector. And basically what you're seeing is this is the track that you have selected. We're taking a look at it. When it says region MIDI through, that means, hey, we're looking at region-based stuff that's over here in the workspace. Because regions are the building blocks that we have in Logic to create our song. So I have MIDI regions and audio regions that are playing stuff. And when it says region MIDI through, that's actually processes that are going to happen to MIDI as it comes into the computer. So MIDI would be something like a controller keyboard that's sending in MIDI notes into the Logic tracks area, which is playing a sound. And then it's recording a MIDI region, which will play back that sound. So when it says MIDI through, what we're doing is we're applying processes to the MIDI as it's coming into Logic, which is pretty neat because if my timing is totally off, Logic will correct it as it's being recorded. Later on, we'll get into this a little bit more, but I just wanted to explain what this area meant, because if I have a blank MIDI region, so I'm going to control-click and choose a blank MIDI region. If I select that MIDI region, you'll see that this changed over here. It says, hey, this region's called Classic Electric Piano. If I select in the background, it says MIDI through again. So what's kind of neat is if I click on this region and decide to change the name, El Piano, you'll see the region's called El Piano, and that's reflected over in the inspector. Now, if I hold Option and drag this region over, that creates a copy. Now, this region and this region both have the same name, but all of their information over here on the left-hand side could be different. So the inspector is not only looking at the information that's going on within the region, but we're able to alter some of those parameters. So if I select this region and I choose to transpose, this region won't be transposed, and this region will. We'll be exploring this more when we talk about MIDI recording and editing, but I thought it'd be important to talk about this because as you're building your first song, you might want to come over here and start adjusting things like transposition and quantize and all that kind of stuff. All right, so I'm going to get rid of these regions by clicking and holding and dragging over them to band select them and hit delete.